from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. It's pretty wild. Ooh, welcome everybody to Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. We are the embattled broadcast that explores the past to remain in the present, to dictate the terms of our future. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So incredibly happy to be here this evening. We have been taking a little bit of time between episodes. There is a lot of things that I really want to go into, but take just droves and droves of research. So one of the things I also wanted to do was kind of stay a little bit more current in what we know is disclosure. Also, what we're seeing across the board when it comes to government agencies and them disclosing specific information, whistleblowers coming out. So tonight is Whistleblower Discloses, Downed Crafts Retrieved. We're also going to be talking about a couple of different things that we know from this and within the disclosure movement. We're also going to be kind of getting in and out. This is going to be more of a conversation, not so much of a presentation, but we're going to go over the facts of the article that went into it's a company called the Debrief, and how some of these allegations have been somewhat backed up by others, but also because this whistleblower came forward, there is drama within the disclosure community, and we're going to go over that too. We're going to talk about it. Now, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the disclosure movement and how many people have been a part of the disclosure movement, who has come forward. And one of the questions that brought me almost to the point of like, well, this is kind of wild here, right? And that being that so many people have come forward this information. Why now? Why now is this specific person who is a whistleblower, yes, but many people who have had clearances or clearance levels, right, to disclose this information, why is it only now that these people are starting to come forward? And also, why is this one deemed more credible than the other ones? So, to understand that, we have to really get into the information. But before we do, please like, share, subscribe. Also, leave a comment when this is finished. It helps the algorithm tremendously. Also, please, if you're inclined to, we have super chats and super thanks open. We have donations available. Also, become a member of this specific channel. All proceeds go back into what we're doing here and really gets us behind specific paywalls and certain information that is not accessible to the mainstream community. Some of that takes some funding to do so. Also, it helps us enhance these broadcasts every time. And one more thing I wanted to announce is that we're going to be doing our next workshop, our next energetic workshop. And what that means on this side of it is we're going to be talking about past life traumas and current life traumas. We're also going to be showing you how to heal those specific traumas to get yourself onto the path of awakening, right? A lot of people are held back by these specific traumas, whether it's in this lifetime or the lifetime before. And sometimes it's hard to recognize them. So we're going to go over how to recognize them. We're going to go over how to treat them or how to help them. And we're also going to be talking about steps from that point on, right? Of course, that goes into the energy aspects of it. There is a ton of information about energy and what energy does and how we are energy. We've gone through quite a few of these workshops already, so you know what you're in for. There's also going to be downloadable packages that you'll get with charts, PDFs, excerpts from books, things that are relevant to the topic at hand. So without further ado, let's talk disclosure. We haven't talked disclosure in a long time. It's been a while. We strayed away from a little bit of the alien concepts or the extraterrestrial concepts, and we went towards the spiritual stuff, which is absolutely amazing. But now, understanding what we know about the spiritual community, going back and looking at specific things like disclosure, gives us a different perspective of how we can interact with these topics and what they truly mean to us, right? So, if you haven't been listening, there was a whistleblower who came forward. And we're going to go over a little bit of what they said, a little bit of who this person is, a little bit of what this person has really, encountered as they come forward. So let's get into it a little bit. We're going to take excerpts specifically from the article in the debrief, which is truly epic. But we're also going to be talking about the drama that this person has already ensued and how there's specific gatekeepers trying to put themselves above this whistleblower, right? So, a former intelligence official turned whistleblower has given Congress and the intelligence community inspector general extensive classified information about deeply covert programs that he says possesses retrieved intact and partially intact craft of non human origin. Now, I can't tell you how huge that is to hear somebody say this. Now, again, I'm not saying and co-signing that he is 100% on it, right? Or that this is factual. What I'm saying is what was brought forward, and then we're going to analyze it, right? And we're going to analyze it because of certainly with things going on around this topic and the people themselves. I've already had one comment in the post I did prior to the show where the gentleman who spoke, I believe it was a gentleman, said that they didn't believe this whistleblower because of the body language. Now, I'm seeing Valentina in the chat says that she doesn't believe him because of some sort of psyop. And we're going to get into that, right? What if this is a, hey, look over here, and while we do something over here, right? And again, Valentina says he's still in the intelligence community, and that could be a clear indication of the trustworthiness of this person, right? Let's keep getting into facts because that's what we're here. But I want to hear your thoughts on this as we go through this. I'm going to be watching the chat heavy tonight. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to interact with each other because that's what we do here. It's not just me up here, it's all of us up here. I'm just the talking head who's speaking, and you guys are where the information is coming from. So, the information this is the whistleblower says has been illegally withheld from Congress, and he filed a complaint alleging that he suffered illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures. Other intelligence officials, both active and retired, with knowledge of these programs through their work in various agencies, have independently provided similar or corroborating information both on and off record. Now, one thing that we've seen people do is they look for confirmation from retired agents, from a litany of people who worked within that field. Now, to say that these people don't have pensions or some sort of allegiance to the greater intelligence community, even after retirement, would be naive, right? And again, this isn't to just break this apart. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring you what comes to my mind while reading this, because a lot of you are like myself and we question everything. So somebody coming forward after our community has been literally doling out this information for the last 40, 50, 60 years. But now all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's pick this up, right? Mainstream media is even picking this up, which is another red flag in my opinion, right? So again, but we're going to see, you know, we're going to see people trying to gatekeep this information at the same time. And they are within our community, which calls into question their motives, truly. Now, there are certain people who we in this show have talked to, and we talk to on a regular basis, who see some of these people as somewhat legitimate. They don't agree wholly with what they've said, but they're doing work with them now, especially right now at Congress, trying to get information. So, is there more to this hierarchical structure than we're seeing here, right? So I'm seeing some people saying it smells like crap. Yes, I agree that there is a lot going on and there are shenanigans all over the place. I think that money and power within a community have a lot to do with the gatekeeping. And I think that there is also other black projects that are coming to the forefront, and assets are being mobilized to disseminate specific information. And I think some of the people that we may not even think are assets. And that's kind of like where we have to start drawing lines, right? And being very discriminate on how we get this information out and who we give this information to. So another thing I call into question is anytime somebody's giving information to the government, do they expect the government to like nod their head and be like, "Yeah, sure. That's what's happening. We've been deceiving the entire or we've been lying to the entire American population for the last 70 years." You think that they're really going to come out and say that? What's the goal here, right? What's the goal? And if we do give the government information, what's to say that they're not going to squash it, right? It, it's it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I can't understand why people would want to do this. And I don't know what they think they're going to get out of it. And let's say the government does one day say, "Hey, you're right. We did do that." Amongst us is going to believe them, right? Who's going to believe them? They've been known to lie at every avenue. So, what makes me think that this is going to be that moment, right? Or that shining moment where they're like, yeah, we're just going to be completely transparent with you this time. We're just going to go ahead and do it all, right? No, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's greater agendas at play. So, let's talk about the whistleblower. The whistleblower, David Charles Grosh, 36, a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan. He's a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or NGA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, which is the NRO. He served as a reconnaissance officer representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 2021. And from late 2021 to July of 2022, he was the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency co-lead for UAP analysis, and it's representative to that task force. So, just to go over the task force as well, the task force was established to investigate what was once called unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and are now officially called unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, which has its own set of challenges. Why are we changing the name? Is it for stigma purposes, or is there some sort of psyop within that name change as well? Right? And how they can dictate what that means to be an unidentified anomalous phenomena or aerial phenomena, right? As opposed to an unidentified flying object or a USO, unidentified submerged object. So the task force was led by the Department of Navy under the office of the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. It has been reorganized and expanded into the all domain anomalous resolution office to include investigations of objects operating underwater as well. So Grosh said the recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles have been made for decades through the present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. Analysis has determined that objects retrieved are of exotic origin or non human intelligence. Whether extraterrestrial or unknown origin, I mean, really, what's the difference at this point? Based on the vehicle's morphologies and material science testing, and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. This is what Gross said. So, so far, you know, why are we focusing on the semantics, right? The semantics of, well, it's non human intelligence or unknown intelligence. Does this mean that it's actually parallel to what we know now as reality? There's parallels that are opening up. So it actually is from Earth, just not this Earth, which leads me to another point, and this has to do with CERN. As of reading today, CERN believes that they're able to essentially open a portal or a black hole and use our gravity to connect to an alternate reality. And they're going to try and make communication this week. Of all the weeks, why this week? Right? We know the whistleblower just came out. Why this week? One. And this is no such thing as coincidence, right? We're talking about all these things, but they're truly connected. And we're going to get to that. But not only that, right? We know about Project Bluebeam and what they're going to instill as fear tactic upon the population. Why is it that the entire East Coast was blotted out with smoke and fog via Canadian fires, which we've never seen that bad, ever, ever? So, are they bringing this forward to set up a narrative that they've actually opened up a portal and either released these entities onto Earth, which they're now setting up Project Bluebeam to put, you know, virtual reality in front of us to be these craft, right? And this brings credence to the Chinese spy balloons as well, right? These spy balloons were looking for something. We don't know, but we didn't shoot them down right away either. So there's a lot of speculation there as well. But so CERN is doing what they're doing, or let's just say it's not from CERN; it's from outer space, right? Or somewhere, some hollow Earth theory that these entities are now now that we've come forward with these whistleblowers saying this is what's been happening. We've been retrieving these things for so long. Now look up, there's an invasion happening, right? It all stems back to Project Bluebeam and this fear tactic of the American people shuddering to that of which is the entities from above, right? And if they do that, they'll be trading one divisive narrative to a coagulative narrative that's going to be them as the intermediary between these extraterrestrial bodies and the layman or myself and you. So they put themselves in a place of where they gain all the power and lose all of the things that they've been doing over the last 4, 5, 6, 30, 40 years to the American people as of these tactics, right? So there's a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. And going through it makes my head spin because I'm like, well, which way is it? Right? Are they going to come through that CERN portal? And even if here's the thing, right? If we open a portal to a different reality, what's to say that our gravity won't disrupt the physical balance of that world and destroy it? Maybe they don't have gravity. Maybe they have something opposite of gravity. And introducing gravity to that world will cause massive devastation, right? And another thing about and I'm jumping all over. I'm sorry, but my brain is just having an ADD moment, right? So if we know that there's wildfires and there's a ton of wildfires all over the United States, have we ever seen it where it looks so apocalyptically gray that it blotted out the sun? This happens in California all the time. Now, I'm not saying that they don't get smoke and bad air, but I mean, I live in the Northeast and it was hard to be outside. Your lungs were burning, your eyes were burning. Any prolonged things that were outside were choking or coming down with some sort of cough, right? And don't even get me started on behind the scenes, right? Wasn't there a whole train full of chemicals that just went missing as well? What would be a great way to harm a large population would be to create this smoke and add some sort of chemical to it that is, you know, going to do what they projected to do under the guise of eugenics how long ago, right? And what the last 3 or 4 years was all about. So we see that there is a movement towards reducing the population. And all of these things are seen as suspicious because who do we trust? Right? We can't trust the people on the TV. We can't trust the officials in Washington. We can't trust any specific field that's got multinational corporation label all over it. So who do we trust? Do we trust the guy who's coming out with all this information, yet he's still a part of the intelligence community and they haven't actually disowned him yet? Look at what happened to Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar came out and talked about Area 51. They literally distanced themselves from him immediately. Immediately. But they're not doing that for this guy. And there's actually a lot of people who are co signing what he's saying. People in a position of influence that would also lead me to believe that they are a part of the same, if not the compartmentalization program of these specific psyops, right? It's my brain is ready to just blow a lid off, right? Ready to blow a lid off. So let's keep going a little bit. Let's keep getting into the information. So in the filing, Grosh's complaint is represented by a lawyer who served as the original Intelligence Community Inspector General. Again, another red flag tell, right? This person is not a part of the community at large, they're a part of the intelligence community. So, Grosh said again, we're not talking about prosaic origins or identities, right? Referencing the information he provided Congress and to his lawyer. The material includes intact and partially intact vehicles. In accordance with protocols, Grosh provided the Defense Office a pre publication and security review at the Department of Defense with information he intended to disclose to us. And his on record statements were all cleared for open publication on April 4th and 6th of 2023 in documents provided to the entire United States. So he has spoken to his superiors within the Department of Defense and within the Defense Office to make sure that he wasn't overstepping specific boundaries of disclosing this information. There's your red herring right there. Cleared for open publication. They gave him permission to do this. Now, this calls into question everything. Everything. And when we get to the part with Dr. Stephen Greer and how he was trying to take credit for bringing this information forward first, it's deep. It's deep, right? And there's also connections to Lou Alzando as well. Not saying that they are capitulant or bad people in any of this, but I think that there's alternate agendas that, you know, truly are intermingling here. And I believe some of the people who are at the forefront of our community are inundated with money and power, just like politicians. And this is why they make these virtue signals and say these things. And then people come out and say the opposite. Now, the part that I can't say Dr. Greer is completely part of all this is because when we talk about what he said, the whistleblower denies it. But how much credibility does the whistleblower have? So we're at this gray area, right? Who do we believe now? Who do we believe? And it gets, there's more divisiveness within the community of disclosure than in the mainstream. And that's the purpose, I believe, is to pick us apart and make us go into groups or camps and go against each other so nobody is fighting for the ultimate disclosure, right? And it's it's wild to see this happening. But let's keep going. So Grosh discloses and those of non public witnesses under new protective provisions of the latest defense appropriations bill signal a growing determination by some in the government to unravel colossal enigma with national security implications that has be, bedeviled the military and tantalized the public going back to World War II and beyond. For many decades, the Air Force carried out disinformation campaigns to discredit reported sightings of unexplained objects. Now, with two public hearings and many classified briefings under their belts, Congress is pressing for these answers. So let's get into this gatekeeping, right? So now I'm going to show you something and then I'm going to read it to you because it's important. It's important. So, as you see here, there is something that Dr. Greer wrote on Twitter, and it says, "Dear friends, I'm writing to see if you might consider attending the press conference of Dr. Greer, founder of the Disclosure Project, documentarian, best-selling author, and leading authority of UFO and UAP intelligence." Right there, giving your moniker that is not a good look. At the National Press Club in Washington on June 12th, Dr. Greer will present evidence of illegal black budget projects relating to the UFO UAP operations by the United States government. He will be joined by several high level government whistleblowers who will share their first handed testimony and experiences with these projects. This will also be the first time that Dr. Greer will discuss in depth the contents of his Disclosure Project's intelligence archive, consisting of over 5 terabytes of government documents, whistleblower testimony, and specific locations of illegally operated UFO projects. Attaching the media alert with more information. Please note, this is extremely topical given the fact that one of the whistleblowers is going out to the media today as this very timely and topical story. In fact, Dr. Greer mentioned this key whistleblower, David Charles Grosh, and has provided actionable intelligence to him and senior members of his team. The information Dr. Greer provided was essential in Grosh's critical investigations and findings. Dr. Greer will discuss how these findings will impact his call for Congress to take constitutional control of the issue. Now, this has a ton of red flags. Now, if you disagree, I would love to hear it in the chat. We're not going to put you on blast. I want to hear the perspectives of everybody, right? Because I might be looking at this from a conspiratorial sort of mindset. But what's saying here is that Dr. Greer gave the whistleblower information. And now the information that he's given the whistleblower has helped his investigation in this disclosure of this information. So was Dr. Greer given the authority, right? First off, to call himself the most intelligible man on UFOs and UAPs, while he might be, that's a moniker that I think should be given to him by other people. I don't know the case behind that, but he's saying that himself. Nobody else has claimed him to be that. Is he knowledgeable? Absolutely. Does he know a lot? Absolutely. But the most knowledgeable person, I mean, I've seen JJ and Desiree Hertog. They're incredible. They have so much information, right? There's a lot of people, I would say that should hold that moniker as well. But not even the case, right? So the whistleblower had to literally give the information he was going to give out to everybody, to his superiors. Now, did he give him Dr. Stephen Greer's information too? Was Stephen Greer given also this green light to give out this information? And when the whistleblower comes forward, right? You know, he says that this never happened. So, statement from David Grosh is, "I took my job very seriously, and early on, I allowed various individuals that alleged they had information to speak their truth as a part of my evaluation process. I have not been mentored by anyone, and my public disclosure has been done independently under my own free will. And I emphatically request that Dr. Stephen Greer cease using my name to promote his personal agenda." Now, whether you agree or disagree with the whistleblower, is there something happening here? Is there something happening here where Dr. Stephen Greer sees himself as an authority, and maybe this is something that he wasn't a part of, but to promote this new conference, he kind of went out on a limb and spoke sort of not, maybe he didn't say exactly that's what it was, but he's implying, right? So there's implicitness here. We have to look at how this is working. So when I saw all this happening, it seemed to me like Dr. Stephen Greer is saying that the information that I gave him was helping him get to his conclusions. Therefore, I was a part of this whole thing, right? So I didn't know what to make of that. It seemed a real gatekeeping to me. Like if the information doesn't come from our faction, it's probably not credible. And the only reason why he has credible information is because we gave him information. Am I wrong to think that with what we just heard or what we just saw via tweets of these people? I don't know. I'm not sure. So it gets further involved here. So there's Carl E. Nell, a recently retired Army colonel and current aerospace executive who was the Army's liaison for the UAP task force from 21 to 22 and worked with Grosh there, characterized Grosh as beyond reproach. Now, we all know what beyond reproach means, right? That they couldn't say anything bad about them or discredit them in any way. Christopher Mellon, who spent nearly 20 years in the U.S. intelligence community, has served as a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, has worked with Congress for years on unidentified aerial phenomena. He said a number of well placed current and former officials have shared detailed information with me regarding this alleged program, including insights into history, governing documents, and the location of where craft was originally abandoned and recovered. That's what Malone said. However, it is a delicate matter getting this potentially explosive information into the right hands for validation. This is made harder by the fact that, rightly or wrongly, a number of potential sources do not trust the leadership of the all domain anomalous resolution office established by Congress. But some insiders are now willing to take the risk of coming forward for the first time with knowledge of these recovery programs. What do y'all think? What does that sound like to you? I'll tell you what it sounds like to me. It sounds like the laptop from hell that we all heard about, which was deemed disinformation by all of these intelligence officials, 50 of them, right? They're doing some sort of the same tactic here. All of these officials are saying, well, this guy's credible. This guy has beyond reproach. And how are we to sit here and say, well, they like to use this tactic to validate their narratives. You know, it's difficult to say whether this is believable or not. And I'm not swoon either way. I think that there is a lot of frailty in this argument. I think that there is a lot of psyopy things happening. But I also want to believe the whistleblower because we know that they have been doing that, right? We know that they've been doing that. But to hear it coming from somebody who's got so many ties to the intelligence community is difficult to swallow because every part of my nature has been looking at these people and saying that they've been inverting reality for so long that it's hard to know which way is true north now. And because they might be telling the truth this time or the last time, what's to say that they're telling the truth the last time or this time, right? They may have given us some of the information. They may be omitting some of the information, which is a fallacy of truth because of the omission. There's so many different levels to this. which is one of the reasons why disclosure is so hard to get. Full, unprecedented disclosure is so hard. First, from compartmentalization. Second, from the psyop nature of some of these intelligence agencies. Third, because we can't know who's 100% true and who's not. Even documents can be made up, right? Statistics can be made up. We've seen it time and time and time again. What does it tell? What does that say to you? It says that they've created this environment where you can't trust your own eyes, you can't trust your own ears, you can't trust anything. And it's insane. It's insane, you know? And again, I'm not saying Stephen Greer is a bad person. I'm not saying that he is a part of PSYOPs, but maybe I am saying it as well. Maybe he is a CIA asset. I don't know. I can't sit here and say yes or no with confidence. So I'm not going to say that. But there is people on both sides of the fence that believe what they're saying is true. Now, being a third party observer and not being able to intellectualize all of it here, right? And not give in to either body and say, well, I'm still on the fence. And while there's some things that he says that I do agree with, Dr. Greer, there's a lot that I don't. And I'm not ashamed to say that. There's a lot that I believe is being done for monetary purposes. And I think a lot of people will sell out a lot of themselves and their friends and family for power and money. And that's why we try and grasp ourselves into a spiritual foundation so power and money no longer have bearing on what we're doing. And it no longer plays a part in the equation of what we do, right? And I I I I know some people may think it that what I'm saying right now is not, they don't maybe they don't like it or they don't agree with it. And I still love you to death, all of you. And you don't have to agree with me. And I'm only talking from my perspective. Yours might be different, but I appreciate it too because it's giving me an insight into something that I might have a bias on, right? And I'm trying to take this as analytical as possible. And there's a lot of red flags in this coming forward. And a lot of people have tried to put their names to be associated with it, which again turns another red flag for me. So for me to sit here and tell you that I know what the factual truth is would be me lying. And I know you come to a show and you want to hear somebody's point of view and you want to hear what they believe is the truth. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't call it. Do I hope he's telling the truth? Absolutely. Do I think he is? Probably not. But that's the confliction inside of myself. And while I'm saying this, most people will see this as a vulnerable moment. I think this is a powerful moment because we're not here to critique others in that way. We're here to take their information and put it on the side until it's verifiable, right? And we're standing in that power of being open as opposed to being, you know, relegated to a faction in this argument. And I think that a lot of people, especially in this community and the political communities, can benefit from that. There's something to be taken away from everything, right? So, whatever this might be, I think that this is a planned unveiling that's leading to something greater, right? Whether that's a greater evil or a greater good is yet to be seen. But I believe that the coming days, right, will give us the insight into this portion of it, which will then help us to dictate those terms of that future, right? Because there's a lot here that, if it is true, our government has a ton of information. And if they're pressed properly through the right judicial systems, we may get the information we've been looking for. But if it's just another paid actor trying to dissuade the community, we're going to have a lot of heartbreak. So we got to be ready for both. And we got to keep moving forward into evaluating our truth and doing the research for ourselves and getting to these points and finding out what resonates with us. And again, what resonates for me might not resonate for you, but it's all in the greater collective consciousness leading us to that ascension, And there's a lot to be said here. There's a lot that we can focus on that'll show us how, if this is a red flag event, we can watch how this is lining up and it'll prepare us for the next one so that we can call it out for what it is. If this is a genuine event, we can revel in the fact that we were here at the opening and unveiling of this event to see past it and to get into the weeds of what it means because we're doing both right now, right? These two outcomes are not mutually exclusive. It could be a variation of all of it. And, there's a lot of other factors that bleed into this as well. So I thought that it was interesting to talk about it, right? And that's kind of what I got on the whistleblower. There's more to the story. We can go through all the different people who said that this specific person is credible or factual, but these are all people who have stood shoulder to shoulder with this man in operations overseas, in America, with a specific agenda and goal. So who's to say that it was righteous if they're taking orders, right? Eh, That there's so many things we can call into question. We've lost a lot of trust in governmental bodies, especially the intelligence community, when we see how the government has been weaponized for dissenting voices, no matter what side of the aisle it's on. If you dissent from what they want you to believe, they're coming for you in every way, shape, and form that they can possibly muster. Which is why being on these platforms and being out here like I am is difficult sometimes because we never know who to trust. Everybody can be an ally until they're not. And there's a lot of censorship. And what would hurt me more than not would not being able to come onto this show and connect with everybody here. This is like my therapy. This is like my cathartic moments. Of course, besides the loving moments with my wife and, us spending our lives together, this is something I thoroughly enjoy. And it makes me who I am and it makes me better for it because all of you lend me the strength to do this every week, twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Working 9 to 5 and coming home and working for another 4 or 5 hours to put these shows together can be grueling. But because we have these moments, all of us, and my wife is in the audience, she's watching, so she is a part of this as well. But we have these moments together where we get to unabatedly go into these topics and not really have any, you know, not really have any judgment calls, right? Nobody's judging anybody. Nothing, no concept is too outlandish to evaluate because the information is the activation. So for us to be activated by it, we must explore it. And this is why this is my cathartic moments, right? Because going through this information sometimes changes my perspective for the better, for the worse, doesn't matter. We're here doing what we're doing because we know that there's more to humanity than what is being told and what meets the eye. We know that there are extraterrestrials visiting this planet in a way that I'm pretty sure that crafts probably have been retrieved or have crashed via malfunction, whatever. And extraterrestrials have been captured. We've got the stories. But the other thing that gets me a little hot under the collar is where was all of these government consensus and all of these different, committees being put together when Joe Schmo down the block said the same thing? What makes this one person coming forward any more important than the guy who saw the aliens in his backyard or who was taken upon their ship? Why is this more important than that? And it's not. It's all part of the lineage and the stories that give us that greater understanding, right? If we didn't hear from all the people who have had, I guess, quiet contact as opposed to media coverage contact, right? It wouldn't give us the appreciation we do, and it wouldn't let us feel that if this is true, we wouldn't, we would be elated to see it out there for everybody. We wouldn't be able to feel that if all of those people who came before speaking their truth didn't come forward, regardless of their ridicule or what it did to their lifestyles, right? So there is a preordained process to everything. And right now we're in the mix of it. So we've got to keep our hearts and minds open. And we've got to hope that these are, at least not hope, maybe it's a strong word, but stay on the fence if he's telling the truth or not. Certain things will give it off that he might not be. Give this person the benefit of the doubt until it's too late. All the time. This is how we should do it. Because to reside in love is to see the best in everybody. It's part of the way it works. So I honestly hope and pray he's telling the truth. Because if he is, the implications from this point forward would be huge. Now, if he's not, we're going to have to regroup and do this again, right? But keep an open mind. So, I just wanted to really talk about this tonight. That's all I got. And I want, I'm probably not going to go the full hour. I know that there are some more shows coming on after this. So I'll give you some time to get yourselves together because I love you all and I want to make sure that you're all well rested, hydrated, and you get something to eat before you dive into the next YouTube show. So, with all that being said, remember, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment when this is finished. Super chats are still open. If you're inclined to donate, please do. All proceeds go back into this. Keep an eye out for the next link. The next energetic workshop is going to be past life traumas and present life traumas, how to find them, how to evaluate them, and how to get rid of them or get over them or see a different perspective of them. And then once you have the resolution you need, what's the next step? This is all that we're going to go over in the next energetic workshop. So the link will be available soon, probably going to be about a month from now. We're going to get into it again. I don't know if everybody here has been in these workshops, but the workshops for me have been just absolutely amazing. Connecting with everybody, from the reactions that we got through the workshops, I think we're really changing hearts and minds out there. We're creating healers every day, and I think it's a positive step for all of us, right? So if you're inclined, the tickets will be $25. We're going to have a promo code to get 10% off. If you're a member of the channel, which is also still open, you know, we can, I there's 20% off for those members. Valentina, if there's any issues, you can contact me. You have my email. We can talk about this. So contact me for the next one, and we'll get into some things. So, with all that being said, remember, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. If not us, then who? The information is the activation each and every day, every moment, every second, every millisecond. And love like your life depended on it, because it does. It does. And that's what we have to do for one another. See past these social constructs and get to the deep rooted energetic feeling of that person. So I love you all. With all of me, I love you all. And I will see you all soon. We're gonna be spacing out the shows a little bit more now so that we can get more research and get a little bit deeper. Probably gonna wait 2 or 3 days in between each show instead of every other day. And I hope this was eye opening for some people. I'm sure some of you already knew a lot about it, probably more than I do. But I really hope that this brought something to the table that you didn't see before. And I'll talk to you all soon and have a great rest of the evening. Good night.